my eye. Through the mist, my surprise shone light from distant northern skies. At that point, realized I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play.
Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, interviews with awakened masters as they share their quantum work with you. The Quantum Guide Show is produced by Karen Holton, creator of the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation, a free 9-step online course to give you the tips and resources you need to thrive. Karen lost and continues to keep off 178 pounds of surplus body weight as she made her dreams come true. Whether you are awakening to the ascension process or simply want a wiser, more efficient lifestyle, this program is for you. No strings attached. The Quantum Guide Show is brought to you in part by Zendome's Orgonite, Karen's unique brand of orgone generators, ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. Find out how orgone generators work and what they can do for you. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out Karen's current selection, only available from her website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Quantum Health Transformation. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. I am pleased to introduce you to 2 guests today, Berit Stover and Beth Mund, co-authors of Living Beyond Fear, Sacred Letters from the Afterlife. Their new book is a collection of 21 profoundly sacred letters, which provide the energy and divine guidance for living life more fully and more abundantly. Here's a little bit of background on both of my guests. Beth Mund is an intuitive healer. She holds a master's degree in psychology. She's a certified wellness coach and is a freelance writer. Berit Stover is a psychic medium, has a degree in international relations, worked extensively in the international transportation logistics industry, and has served on multiple boards for international and local nonprofit organizations. Beth Mund's and Berit Stover's life purposes were profoundly awakened and altered following their own spiritual transformative experiences. In 2004, Beth Mund fell into indescribable grief after experiencing the stillbirth of her son. It shattered her being, creating an opening for spiritual awakening and powerful intuitive healing gifts to come forward. In addition, Beth began receiving visual, auditory, feeling communication, as well as automatic writing with souls from the afterlife. Berit Stover was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2010 and had an out-of-body experience during a medical procedure that was a catalyst for enhancing her connection with the spirit world. In 2016, Beth and Berit met and were divinely guided to combine their psychic and intuitive abilities to receive sacred letters, channeled in automatic writing from departed loved ones and strangers. They published their first collection of 21 sacred letters in their book, Living Beyond Fear, Sacred Letters from the Afterlife. And check out the links below. How to get the book and more about Beth and Berit will be below. Berit and Beth, welcome to the Quantum Guide Show. I myself received psychic gifts after I experienced trauma, and so I'm deeply touched by your work and your message to the world. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, how did you two come together and start doing the work that you do?
So as you mentioned, Karen, first of all, thanks so much for having us on your show.
My pleasure.
We actually just met, as you mentioned, in 2016. We were introduced by a mutual friend who knew we were both speaking with spirits, and she connected us. And it was not long after that that we kind of had our aha moment. We discovered that we could connect around the same spirit. And so we thought, oh my goodness, if we merge our intuitive abilities, we'll
Mm-hmm.
just get more information. But what actually started coming through were these profound letters, these sacred letters. And we
Mm-hmm.
discovered that we're kind of the missing piece for one another. I'm kind of like the scout. I can see people, they're always on my left side on almost like a visual stage, and I can see them and identify them. And Beth is the transcriber. She
Mm-hmm.
is the one who kind of goes into an angst, and she is almost like a court stenographer, and within minutes she can transcribe these profound, beautiful letters. And we started receiving all these letters. We really weren't sure what was all about. And then I had two things that happened. One, I had a dream in 2017 that these were to be called sacred letters and that
Mm-hmm.
they were to be shared. And so we published that in 2019. But the letters are beautiful. They're so empowering and healing and inspiring. And they're really different, like you mentioned, 21 different people, but they're all sharing their story with us from the other side, from a much more expanded view. Not that they have all the answers, because they don't, but they're reflecting back on their last life and incorporating that, but looking at it with a much broader sense of the bigger picture. And so their stories resonate with so many people because there are stories, and they bring healing, they bring inspiration, and they're empowering.
Oh, sounds fantastic. So I'm wondering, this a little bit off topic, but this seems a little bit like receiving downloads. I have a program called Quantum Health Transformation that I received in an instant in a download. And so, how is it for you when you get that information? Do you ever get a little bit overwhelmed? Is it an awful lot of information, or are you able to just type crazy and get it all down as it's I don't know. I was going to say subscribed or transcribed. I don't know. What do you say? Channeled to you.
Yeah. Um, what's interesting is how the automatic writing started to come about. Berit and I were text messaging back and forth after we had met about spiritual topics, ideas, and one day received a message for her, and I started typing, and I said, you need to listen to what's coming through right now. And she said, oh, okay, and she went off onto something else. And I said, no, really, you need to listen to what's coming through. This is for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I felt different. I felt that whatever I was writing was coming through me. And I began typing out to her a message for her, and it turned out to be from Archangel Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up including that message in the book. And what was profound was that when we looked over the message, the way it came through the writing was different than
Mm-hmm.
our normal text messaging. And that's how we got onto that. We're onto something, that
Mm-hmm.
this is something happening. And we started to have these letters flow through. So in answer to your question, I feel a sort of angst. I feel different than I normally feel. I feel that something is there that needs to come through, and I will sit down at my computer and I will take a breath, and then I will start to transcribe the letters, and it comes through very quickly. So it is very hard sometimes to keep up. I feel like a court stenographer where I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
type away to get all the information correctly. And I hear it in my head first. So it's
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing it and then writing it out at the same time. And I am off in a trance when that's happening. So I don't remember what is being transcribed to me until
Mm-hmm.
I read it over. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
Meredith and I are talking and she'll read something and I said, "Oh, that's pretty interesting. Where did that come from?" She said, "That's one of your letters that you had written." So so it does come through quickly, so fast sometimes there's a lot of spelling errors we have to correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as it's finished, I know it's finished and it's complete because I feel a relief coming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, Karen, sometimes we know who the person is. I can see
Mhm.
them go center. They're always gathered on the left side of my visual stage, and I can see when somebody comes center stage, I know a letter's to be channeled. Sometimes we know the person. Other times we
Mhm.
don't know who it is. They come center stage, and we have to really work backwards, like detectives, to figure out who the person is. And
Mhm.
we get clues, and we ask, and so forth, and we're able to uncover people that we never even knew in this lifetime, let alone up there. So it's really amazing the variety of people that are coming through. As Beth mentioned, we've channeled a archangel. We've even channeled a dog, um,
Mhm.
as you know. So and as well as people who are here. We had a woman who was in a coma that gave us a letter that was really profound and spoke to consciousness. Um,
Mhm.
and how we've studied the brain so much, but it's really our mind and our consciousness that is profound, and what we take with us when we shed our form and we go from life into death, so to speak. We take that consciousness with us.
Mhm. Well, what a great comfort for people, because I think probably the number one fear, I think, amongst humanity is death. And then the amount of things that we do to keep from accepting, that's our transition point. And so how wonderful that people can find out that A, there is something after, and B, it's not going to be terrible. And I think the world right now is in crisis, and more than ever we need to hear what these letters have to say. I want to tell you just from my own experience. I think it's funny, but it's not funny, haha. But it's kind of cool. Is that I also have channeled for Gabriel, the archangel, and it
Mhm.
is amazing. The stuff when I channel, I can't write it down fast enough, and sometimes I get it wrong. And it's funny because what you were saying, Beth, about how you don't that feeling changes and you feel more relaxed when you've done it properly. And I have to go back and change it because I didn't word it to get the correct meaning across. And that was very, very interesting. And I've had ancestors and people I don't know. And from my philosophical perspective, I believe I have 144,000 that I can choose. That's a lot of support.
That is
That
a lot.
and so I choose ancestors. I choose one time I was trying to strategize more in my life, and I actually channeled from Sun Tzu. Shocked the hell out of me, but then once I realized it and I relaxed into the process, I realized that I don't have to explain anything to anybody. This is a deeply personal and life-changing experience. But when we then get our process to the point where we're sharing it with the world, I think that's what we're meant to do. And there's so much peace and reward, from doing this kind of work. I'm really excited about your book. Can you tell me more about what's in the sacred, or I guess our audience, what's more about what's actually in the sacred letters? Like, for instance, is there a universal message for all of us? I'm sure there is, but what types of topics or what type of things do they want us to know?
I'm going to have Berit speak to that, but I just want to say one thing that you had brought up for me is fear.
Mm-hmm.
We titled our book Living Beyond Fear
Mm-hmm.
because even though our book addresses many different areas, depression, addictions, loneliness,
Mm.
fear, there's many loss, grief, there's many areas it covers, but fear is such a huge issue and challenge for so many of us today, both
Mm-hmm.
in our own life and what's coming out and coming at us from the world. So we're going to talk a little bit later about one of our letters about loving within the chaos, but
Wonderful.
which is really addresses the world view of fear. But we all have our individual fears of death, like you mentioned, and our book just cuts that right off because these letters are coming from souls who have been there, and we've had confirmation that
Mm-hmm.
yes, this is the soul that is coming through, and the
Mm-hmm.
feeling we have when we connect is so loving, and there's
Mm-hmm.
so much love, and love and fear are completely opposite from each other. And while we're in love, we're not in fear. So
Mm-hmm.
connecting at this level and sharing our connections, whether it's through another soul, a guide, an archangel, brings that love to other people. And that's why we do these shows, and that's why we post online, and that's why we put ourselves out there, because we want to share that with people, because we've been through our own struggles and challenges and fears, and this absolutely helps to overcome that. So I know Berit's going to talk about some of the topics in the book, but I wanted to share that because you had mentioned fear, and that is why we
Lovely.
chose that title.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think each of the 21 letters speaks to fear, but the underlying universal message is love. And they speak in different ways of love, and that we are love. We are all love. We can be nothing less than love, and we are all worthy. So, as Beth mentioned, there's different letters that speak about healing from addictions. Transcending grief. There's one about bullying. There's one about change, welcoming change. One of the ones that I love that was such a simple letter was from Grandma Ruth. And Grandma Ruth lived to 93. And she was said to say how she was fearful all her life. In her letter, she says, "Do not live in fear. I have lived in fear, my life in fear, and none of it came true. It prevented me from being truly present, being there as myself." So even on this side, she lived so much in fear, and it limited her in what she chose to do or experience. And on the other side, she's like, no, it's not. This is not how it is. It was all an illusion. And it seems so real when we're in it. And as Beth spoke, we've all of us, and everyone listening, everyone's been through their own challenges. Everyone is connected by their heart to people going through challenges. But to know that there's so much love around us, there's so many people that we can tap into, there's so many to help us. I mean, you mentioned all these beautiful ancestors, and where we put our attention draws them to us. When we put out our attention, the energy follows, and then we just need to sort of quiet ourselves and tap in and be observant, because things happened and we think, oh, that's a coincidence. There's nothing, as we know, that's a coincidence. They're all so true. And when we are quiet and we think, okay, let's just put it out there with wonder and awe, could this be? Then all these different types of messages start to come through. And then the more that we are paying attention and allow, the more that comes through. And with that comes through that love, that we're not alone, that we have so much. I call it like a paparazzi of love. We're always surrounded with that love. And that's what's so healing.
Oh, I agree 100%. I got goosebumps. I started to tear a bit while you were talking, because for me, what you're saying is very profound. But because of my own experiences, I know that you're authentic. I know what you're saying is true. And I was going to say seriousness, but that's not right, the word, but the tremendous impact that if other people can open up and allow some of this into their lives, or even open up a tiny little bit to believe that maybe this is possible, the whole world can be transformed, and faster than we think. I used to think that we had to have 51% or more than 50% of people to believe before we could start experiencing a lot of what's considered impossible in our world. I found out, it's only something like 10% in order to start the paradigm shift. But what's so exciting is I'm meeting more and more people, and I'm open to what they're telling me from their experiences. And because I've had some similar, and we're all different, we all experience it a little bit different. We all have a little bit different philosophies, but the main meat and potatoes of it are the same experiences. And I'm just going, wow. And we got to tell people about this. They don't know. And again, we talked a little bit about churches. I can't believe how many people are religious and seem to be and have almost no spirituality. They've got nothing to really grab onto. They've got the fear that if they don't go to church and worship the way this church says, that they're somehow not acceptable, or there's shame and there's grief and different things. But the reality of it is the love is there regardless. It's whether or not we want to just open up and listen and accept it. It's so easy. People think ascension and and all of that is so difficult. It's not, it's really just stripping off, in my opinion, the world and the constraints we've had put on our mind and our thinking to allow this to come out. So I'm very, very excited about you sharing that message with the world. And it must have taken a lot of courage for you guys because, well, we all know what happens when we start, deviating from the mainstream, right?
Yeah. Karen, one of the things that you brought up or about love, it brought up some intuitive insight that I've had in the past where I remember hearing when I was on my journey, just love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I've been through trauma, I've been through challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I have doubts. We all have them.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to hear that and think, what, how do I do that? How do I
Yeah.
do that? When I don't feel it, that's challenging. So, um, I've realized through this process what that means to love ourselves because we bring these letters forward, which are very loving, and that helps people to get into that state where they can love themselves. And how do you love that self? How do you love yourself? It's starting to focus on yourself with baby steps, to take better
Mm-hmm.
care of yourself, to practice self-care, to say no when you don't want to do something. This is what loving yourself looks like. To
Mm-hmm.
to really follow your heart, to know in your heart what you want to do and start following it and start doing it in baby steps, doing it, day by day.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start taking care of yourself and loving yourself, that radiates out to your friends and your family, and that radiates out to people that they touch. And that's how I was able to understand how we can change the world just by having
Mm-hmm.
just by being one person, and getting to that 10%, and then that growing from there. So it helped, like one of our letters, Loving Within the Chaos, talks about loving yourself and talks about looking for the people out there that are doing that, and
Mm-hmm.
who are the helpers. That no matter what we have going on in the world, there's always helpers. There's always light in the darkness. When there tragedy happens out there, look for the helpers. What happens after the tragedy? Look for the light. So beginning
Mm-hmm.
to love within that chaos and focus on yourself. Just love yourself, and that helps us to feel not helpless anymore, which which will radiate out.
I think
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I
I was
agree.
just gonna, yeah, I think that again, it's those pockets that you fill with light, and then they grow. And we always know when we think of different adversities and tragedies, we can look and see the people that have come to our aid. When I've gone through some medical issues and so forth, I've people that I knew and I didn't know were giving me love. And I was actually, for my MS, literally putting it into my legs to get myself moving again so that I could be
Mm-hmm.
walking again. And it sounds it could sound kind of hokey. And maybe people can think it's kind of hokey and just let it be hokey, but try it because it actually, love grows love. And
Absolutely.
it really does transform it. The other thing I wanted to sort of touch on that you were speaking about sharing, I think that the more that we are just sharing our own experiences or things that maybe we don't understand because we don't understand it all, but sharing these kind of profound insights or experiences or something that happened with another, it allows other people to open up. Beth and I were
Mm-hmm.
just with a group of women the other night who are widows, and we were sharing our story and they were sharing their stories, and it was just a beautiful evening of sharing and allowing people to open up and to express things that they don't necessarily understand, but to empower them to grow that muscle and to
Mm-hmm.
know that when they're hearing this and they're hearing that, no, you weren't crazy, that actually your husband did come through, or the
Mm-hmm.
guy that warned you about your children going into the water that just seemed miraculous, that
Mm-hmm.
actually happened. And we don't always
Mm-hmm.
have to understand how things happen, but we can feel, does it discern, does it resonate with truth? And when we feel that, we can come into the truth of what it really is and the
Mm-hmm.
message that it really is conveying.
I agree too. So we're all online there. Basically, we become the change we want to see in the world.
Mhm.
And for me, it was very important for me to have that happen behind closed doors. So with my grown children, with the sister I didn't get along with the brother I didn't get along with, the parents perhaps I didn't get along with before they passed. It was really important for me to do it where no one would even see the changes or see, but wow, the results are fantastic. Another thing I just wanted to say that sort of goes along with what you're saying is a lot of people believe in the saying you need to love, we should be loving other people the way we love ourselves. And then getting back to what you were saying, Beth, they don't know how to love themselves, so they don't know how to love each other. So starting with becoming the change we want to see in the world, and so we do that by realizing the path of love. Um, it completely it takes away any need to even think about the fear anymore because it's so filling. It fills our cup so full to be overflowing. I'm so excited that you're offering and sharing your wisdoms and your experiences with the world. It's so important. And I'm hoping people will just open up a tiny bit and say, well, I'm going to practice that too, you know?
Mhm.
So while you're doing your work, do you call spirits to you, or do they just come and you never know, and all of a sudden you got to get to the typewriter or I guess the keyboard and just type it up quick? Typewriter, I'm dating myself here,
Yeah.
but and just or just start scribbling it down when it comes, or are you able to have like sessions where you actually call them to you, or how? What's your process like?
Yeah, it's both.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have moments, a lot of times where spirit comes to me, and very often, for whatever reason, they like to come to me when I'm in the shower. And I say, oh, I have darted out of the shower to write something down and then jump back in, to be honest. I don't know if that's too much
Mm-hmm.
information. And I have, I'm driving. I receive information all the time that I do sometimes say, I need to put up a boundary and say, I need to be here, because then,
Yeah,
my dishes get piled up, and then,
yeah,
all this stuff starts happening in the real world.
yeah.
Um, and also we can sit down. We do readings for people, with people,
Mhm,
and we will call a spirit to us, and
mm,
we offer that. It's on our website. We do sacred letter readings where we will connect with a loved one for someone, and then we bring through whatever information is meant to come, and then we type up a sacred letter for them, so they get a personalized sacred letter.
beautiful.
And I think what I've learned is we have to be open and
Mhm.
also expect the unexpected. When we were
Yeah.
when we were drafting our book, just in the very beginning, we weren't even sure how it was going to be laid out.
Mhm,
I had walked into my bedroom, and there was Louise Hay in my room. And I just, I've come to this process with some fears, so I've had to unravel that. And I just, knew she was there, and I thought, wow, this is so big. Why is she here? Why is she visiting me? And I just went off to the bathroom and brushed my teeth, and then I came back, and okay, she's still here. Let me see what she wants. And I
mhm,
opened up to her, and she gave me the three parts of our book, how it should be laid out. And
mhm,
and this process is humbling, but it's also teaches us it's taught me, there's no hierarchy. There's no, if someone was famous in this life, I've channeled famous people, I've channeled musicians, I've channeled people who I don't know, I've channeled people who I know. There's no difference when we're, here, when we're channeling, and
mhm,
anyone can come to anyone at any time.
mhm,
And that's a little bit of a misconception, I think, when we're talking about spirits from the other side, that it's we don't have that hierarchy. There's no pedestal, there's no famous people. So that's been helpful. And
mhm,
I have people that have contacted me that have been famous, people who have just passed in this life.
mhm,
I allow them to come in now. I don't push them away. I used to think this is not real, but I believe it and know it's real now. So I
mhm,
that when someone, I can tell the difference. I know when someone's coming through, and
mhm,
when I'm just thinking about someone, there's a complete difference to the process.
Mhm.
And when Beth and I are connecting with the people, we've actually in the book before each of the sacred letters put an introduction. So what were the circumstances? How did the person come into our awareness? So much is being guided, even if we think we're stumbling kind of like Laverne Shirley onto something. No, it's really actually we were kind of guided to be there, and then things kind of unfolded. I will say in the beginning, or towards the beginning, we had so many people, Karen, on our stage that I actually established this deli machine. So everyone gets a ticket. It's a beautiful machine. It's orange and turquoise. Everyone will get spoken to and, will wait their turn. They can pass the tickets amongst them, but it kind of prevents everybody coming at the same time to try to talk with us because we can't process everybody if everyone's talking at the same time.
That makes perfect sense because I've been an activist all my life. And when I pass over, if there's someone who can give ear to me and I can help them on their journey, I really would love to do that. Can we talk a little bit about some viewers, and in the past, even myself, I used to go to church a lot, and the church has really made me fear anything outside of the church. And there are some people who have these, kind of horrid stories about, with spirits and this and that. I myself have never had a negative, unloving experience. And I'm wondering, in your opinion, is it because of our frequency we're connecting with a higher level of being, or is it that there is no such thing as evil spirits? Like, what's your take on that?
I don't go into fear. I never have. It never crossed my mind that there's anything to fear when I'm connecting. However, I have learned to. I'm an empath. I'm very empathic, as so I feel everything that is going on. I've learned to just call in Archangel Michael, call in love. I chose Archangel Michael because it came to me intuitively. You can call in love, you can call in anyone. Just ask to be placed in love. When we're in love, we're connecting on that level. There's nothing to fear. Even if someone comes through, there's someone in my life who has come through who was very unconscious when they were alive and very abusive. And when he's tried to come through, and at first I thought, is this something I should fear? And he was just trying to get a message to me, even if it was coming from his point of view. He wanted me to forgive him for what he had done. And I said, well, forgiveness is on the is my choice, that I will do it when I'm ready, when the healing happens. And so it's not something to fear. Even the beings that are the rest of the beings that are unconscious, when we're in love, and we just call it love into us, whether we're going to a party and that we need to put up our boundaries, or connecting with the other side, it's the same process.
I would agree with you. Like I said, I have never had a negative experience. When I left religion, I pretty much had to, because I won't get into it, but basically I had to leave religion for my own personal reasons. I just couldn't do it anymore. And at that point, then I had to, I felt very alone, and I needed to open up to my guides. I knew they were there because they've been actually there for all through my religious experiences, but I had to keep shutting them down because I was told that this was something that was going to hurt me or whatever. I think really ultimately it's all about power. But once I started opening up, I have, of course, I reach out on a very loving level too. I reach out in love, and I'm only ever met with love. I've never had a bad experience. But yeah, again though, that gets back to people need to learn what love is. What is love? And I'm hoping, does your book get into a little bit about how people can experience love differently than the way they've been taught in the mainstream?
I guess before we get into that, I just want to add one more thing to what you were
Sure,
saying.
sure.
That I think that we're all spiritual beings. And
Mm-hmm.
I think however we can connect, each of us is on our own journey. So whether we're sitting in a pew, a church, or we're walking in the woods, however
Mm-hmm.
we're feeling connected to something that's greater than ourselves, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
source or God or um, the Great Spirit, but it's that sense of spirit. And I think each person, there's however you can get yourself on that path, and as you spoke
Mm-hmm.
to, is to feel that connection, because
Mm-hmm.
we are all connected. Even if we think we're separate, we're not.
Mm-hmm.
In this earthly situation, we are all separate beings, but we're so connected, and we're
Mm-hmm.
connected at the heart, and we're connected through love again. And it's that
Mm-hmm.
love that transcends realms. So, anyway, I just wanted to add that point.
Mm-hmm.
I have a guide too that I channel with regularly, and his name is Jonah. And last Sunday, I asked that exact question. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that was, there's no coincidences, maybe because
Mm-hmm.
we were going to talk about it here today. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, what is love?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, can we feel love? What are the tools for love? And um, I'll paraphrase what he said. I put it on Facebook. We have a Sacred Letters Facebook page that anyone can go on and see all the messages. I post a lot of messages that I'm receiving. And so I posted the interaction. I was asking him questions and he was answering. And I said, "What is love?" And he said, "Love. We are love. Love
Mm-hmm.
is not even a feeling or an action or a thought. Love
Mm-hmm.
is a state of being. It's who we are, and it's easier to talk about when we're not in love, when we don't feel love, and what
Mm-hmm.
prevents us from knowing that love, and the
Mm-hmm.
layers that we have on top of us, and the
Mm-hmm.
layers that keep us from knowing that we are love. And those layers are what we experience in life here, our trauma, our experiences, our doubts, what was said to us, whatever we've gone through that separates us from that love,
Mm-hmm.
is what we can work on to be that love and heal. And we can all heal and be that love. And the closer we lift those layers off, the more we are love. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the way we understand love within relationships or even towards ourselves is different than what they would tell us from the other side what love is. And on the other side, we've been shown it's pure love. Now
Hmm.
people have choice on the other side. Um, they bring they bring their personalities with them. That's what we've seen. So they
Mm-hmm.
have choice to heal, but there's pure love there on the other side.
Yeah, how amazing is that? Uh, it's quite a shift to go from the mainstream, just everyday grind to waking up to realizing that love is an amazing. For me, it's an atmosphere. It includes doing and being. I practice what I call virtues. So, for instance, patience. That's one I have to work on a lot. And when I'm exercising patience with people, I'm showing love. When I'm taking good care of my body, I'm showing love. So I think love is also maybe something that we work at and we move into, and it's like an atmosphere. And after a while, it becomes quite a lovely place to be. Tell me if you notice this, that after a while, the types of things that used to bother you, or people, or basically people, places, or things that caused you to not feel in complete love, do you notice they kind of just go away, or they just kind of dissolve? We have our challenges from time to time, but my life is nothing. In fact, I never even could have imagined it could be this different. What's your take on that?
Well, I've experienced that it's definitely lowered and lessened, but I've also seen that I still get triggered. We
Mm-hmm.
live in this world, and it's
Mm-hmm.
more, I'm still getting triggered. It's more what I'm doing with that trigger. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so when someone triggers me, whereas my old way of behaving is I would immediately be reacting and getting upset and ruminating in my head and all those things that I used to do. And now I say, that's interesting. What does that mean? And then
Mm-hmm.
I go back and I look and I ask myself the question, where is that coming from? Because it's never about that
Mhm.
person. It's never about
Mm-hmm.
that event that's going on now. It's always from our original wound that we have, that
Mm-hmm.
occurred. And the more we go back, the more we calmly ask those questions, we go back, we can heal that original wound, and then those triggers just become less and less. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm on that path, and I would love to be not triggered at all someday,
Oh
but I
yeah, me
don't know if
too.
that's possible.
But I think it speaks to understanding that where the other person's coming from too,
Mm-hmm.
because they're coming usually when somebody is lashing out or saying something that's unkind, it's coming because they're not happy or there's something going on in their life that it's saying, pay attention, something. And it's in those instances that we, as Beth said, kind of need to, how are we going to respond? What would love do? What would love do in that
Mm,
situation? And
Mm-hmm.
how can we we may not even say anything out loud and just in our head, but to send that love. And it
Mm-hmm.
changes the frequency, it changes the energy. When you
Mm-hmm.
go to that, you sort of diffuse the situation. I think also, Karen, what you were speaking to too about, and that's in all of these letters, is when you're saying how things kind of dissipate, is
Mm-hmm.
this bigger picture. They're
Mm-hmm.
sharing a much broader, expansive understanding and view. And so the littlest things that seem so magnified, in our life, making a mountain out of a molehill, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have that can't be when you kind of stretch it out and you expand it.
Mm-hmm.
It loses its power, and you kind of see other how it's relative to other things too.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe also too, like, where is, I know for me in some of my situations, it's actually taught me things, like having to go through that experience with other people is showed me, like you said, patience and other virtues and so forth. But it also, I there said, what am I to know from this?
Mm-hmm.
What is it trying to show me or open me up or make me more aware of something or make me more vulnerable to something that maybe I, was blocked off from, that I need to,
Mm-hmm.
it's not my experience, because we're all in this world on our own journeys. We're all experiencing differently. I have a twin
Mm-hmm.
sister, but we're very different. I have twins and
Mm-hmm.
they're very different. So we don't have to be the same person, and to honor and give grace and space for each person to let that unfold,
Mm-hmm.
and to hold them in the highest light even when things are, not the most ideal.
Mm-hmm. That really makes sense on a quantum physics level because the observer, until we observe something a specific way, then all the other fields collapse, and it is sort of that way. Now, so a wonderful gift is to love someone unconditionally and see a bigger picture of what they're going through with compassion and, of course, with love. Suddenly, what happens is, I believe energetically, I'm no longer contributing to the smallness or the negativity of that person. I'm now allowing love to flow into their lives and for it to be different than what I think it is. And then that's tied in, I think, with what you were saying, Beth, about personal responsibility. I got to tell you, the toughest thing was to realize that in every situation, how did I play a part in
yes,
creating that situation? And then I had to deal with the schmuck that I was and have to
exactly.
slowly transform this like clay of who I am into something different. And it's like peeling layers off an onion, and there's always another layer. So,
Yes, this process is very humbling.
oh, is it ever humbling? So, but when I started taking responsibility for the part that I played, suddenly I couldn't be mad at one person. I couldn't scapegoat anymore. I couldn't do that anymore. And so that's been a terrific blessing in my own life. The other thing that happens, I just want to mention, I'm sort of a little off topic, but it's sort of strange, is I've had a lot of people die on me in the last couple of years, and they always come see me before they pass over, and I don't really even know why, but they come to me. Often it's probably to apologize, but anyway, they come to me, and I always say, go in love, go in love. Don't even think about this. Go on into your wonderful, amazing journey, because I think that's a lot more productive, for one thing. And then they do go, and I don't hold anything against them, no matter what they did. Whatever they did, whatever, I will never even really know the objective truth of the situation. But anyway, so I do that, and then they go, and then I get a phone call the next day, and they go, oh, did you know, so and so passed, or whatever, and I go, yeah, I know, they came to see me yesterday.
It's going to give pause to your friends to come visit you.
And I don't even know why. I mean, I'm really nothing special, nothing more ordinary than anyone else. And I don't know why they come to see me, but they do. Of course, I'm also receptive to it, right?
Yes. Well,
And
you're open. Yeah. Yes. That's
keep
why.
going. You're going to love it up there, wherever you are in the other dimension. You're going to love it. You're just going to love it. And go and hang out with Mom or Aunt, Uncle Fred, and then all your dogs are going to be there. I'm so excited for you. And so my take is very, very different. And just on a personal note, last summer, on the same day, my daughter gave birth to twins. There's the twin thing again. And on the same day, my brother and his dog both passed.
Oh.
And it was really interesting because I couldn't be in grief and in great joy at the same time, because I had these beautiful grandbabies, and I went over there, and I was with my beautiful grandbabies. And although it was not pleasant initially, you know, what happened with my brother, but anyway, it was soon after that he passed, he came to me, and then he was gone. And I'm amazed at how well I adjusted to it, just because he's still there and he's in so much better place.
Right.
So anyway, I just want to tell you that. I want you to tell me more about your book. Enough about me. Talk more about your work and your book. It's just so important for people to understand that there's so much that we have not been told that's real and can help us.
Well, I think what you were just saying, Karen, is that it speaks to we truly don't die, in the sense of how so many of us think that it's so finite, and that we continue, that we're continuing on, just like it's just a continuous process, both on that side and this side, but that we're still so connected, even though we cannot be seen, we can feel the presence of those people. And I think that first of all, to know that our souls are eternal. And I think that is a message that's sort of underscored in all these different letters in the book, that we are eternal. So when we first can say, okay, our souls are eternal, then you can kind of open that door to think, okay, there is a possibility somebody could come in and share a message, or come back to somehow communicate with us here. And so I think that is a beautiful message.
And one of the things we loved about our book, we know there's other books out there where people channel, but we think we're pretty sure that our book is the first that has so many different souls channeling from the other side. And I mean, everyone on the other side has lots to say. And we thought that's why we wanted to get it in the book also, to open up people's minds that this is real. This is not just a possibility or a made up thing that's happening. There's too much information out there. There's too much information that we receive that has been confirmed, and so that it is a real place. And the type of souls that we connected with range from a teenager, a cheerleader, a child, a dog, a grandparent, a yoga instructor. There's so many different voices and so much to know, and each topic is a different topic, as we've already discussed. And people have responded more to one letter than the other because it touched them first. Some people read our book one letter a day, puts them in a great place for the day. Some people have read it through 3 times, and what's amazing is that people have responded that it's opening up their themselves to open up to this, that maybe that that notion that their father is still around, the messages that they doubted are real. So we're so excited that we were so excited that this all happened, but so excited to get this out there because we feel like this is for everybody. This is not just for people who are on the spiritual journey, because these are people who weren't on the spiritual journey. These are people who led real lives and now have a higher view. And not everyone's life was amazing life. There's people that had addictions, and people that struggled, and people that had relationship issues, and they're coming through and saying, "Let me tell you what I know now." They're giving us the cliff notes to help us. So it's and each story, each letter is just touches us in a different way. Some will open our mind. What Louise gave us, the different parts of the book, was for a reason, and we grouped the letters for a reason. So the first part is it helps to open our mind that this is a possibility, and the second part helps us to feel, to open our heart, because we have to open our mind before we can open our heart very often to this and to allow this in. And then the third part is all about connecting. So we can do that. We can connect, and we want everybody to understand. We've been guided to do this, but everyone has gifts, and everyone can open to do that.
And so many readers are saying that it's very easy to read, that's relatable. They're short, as Beth mentioned, they're short chapters. So people can pop around, or they can go through the whole book from the beginning to the end. What other feedback we've received is just reading them has opened the possibilities, opened that wonder, and then they're starting to kind of notice things that they maybe have not noticed before. People are sharing that they feel more courage. Some people have felt they've gone through such grief, and everyone's on their own journey with grief. There's no time, but they're sharing that it's brought peace to them, and it's allowed them to kind of open the door again to feel where things were sort of shut out from going through so much grief. So I think it's touching people in different ways, but allowing people to be exactly who they need to be, and maybe kind of unsticking things and empowering people to say, yes, you are just as connected as all of us. You have the ability. We're no special, we're again like a little Laverne Shirley, but we are just doing the best we can with what we're receiving, and but sharing these messages, and we'll be sharing more. There's so many messages. It's 21 in the first book. There's going to be, what I've heard from the guide, is 7 books. So we're this spring of this year we'll be starting our second book, and speaking to, I think, healing the world. A lot of the messages in the first one were really, I would say, focus more on the individual. Would you say that? And the second one is speaking, some of the letters that we're receiving are to heal our world. I think that is going to be the second one coming through.
Wonderful. I'm really happy to hear that. I wanted to say a little bit about the heart too. I study quite a bit about the heart, and through the Heart Math Institute, they have absolutely proven, that we have this amazing energy field. And a couple of years ago, my mom passed away, and I missed her so badly. I felt completely isolated and alone. And then, and it's funny how, Beth, you talk about being in water and them connecting with you. Well, with me, it's the bathtub. And all of a sudden, I was in the bathtub a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden, my mom said to me, Karen, you need to be able to open your heart to me so that I can be with you, but you need to do that. And so I had to open my heart And when I did that, it was, I had to experience all the pain of the grief, and it was pretty actually horrible to open my heart. But once I did,
Mm.
then my mom came into my life. And it's funny, I do a lot of content videos, and I'll be doing a video, and I watch it later, and it's my mom. She keeps coming through. So
Mm.
my dad has come through and given me ideas and help with business. My mom has come through and helped me with my videos. And I don't feel like I'm overtaken at the time. I just am very aware that they're with me while I'm doing it. And then later when I watch the videos, I laugh because I go, oh my God, that's my mom. Like sections of it will be my mom. Did we lose Beth?
I think we just lost Beth.
Should we?
Yeah, let's see if I get her back.
Yeah,
No, I think she's coming in again, I think.
Okay.
But I think that it's an extraordinary time, and a few different letters talked about the image of the earthquake. How,
Mhm.
and I think in Grandma Ruth, I mean, she had a beautiful one if I can find hers. That talks about this earthquake and how we kind of clear the rubble. What works, what do we need to keep and what we don't, and that's a healthy thing. That's change. That's a
Mhm.
continuum. That's us kind of removing these layers that are just keeping us in that feeling of separation. And I think one of the biggest issues in our world is this loneliness, that people feel so alone. They can be surrounded by so many
Separated.
people.
Yep. Yep.
But let me see if I can find. Um, okay, she said, we need to, this is from Grandma Ruth, but we need to let ourselves fly to see what we are capable of, to truly know ourselves in the eyes of our soul. Even if we fall, it is better than not trying. Life will bring you much to conquer. This is the truth. But can you move and continue in the face of fear, even if it shakes your foundation like an earthquake? Can you step aside the rubble and see what needs to be rebuilt? What can be saved and what needs to be tossed? There is nothing more disruptive than an earthquake, shaking up the ground, forcing those to start from a new world, a different place. Shaking up the foundation, that is what is going on in the world today. And then she ends with, it is like pulling the carpet out from under your feet, shaking up fear, hatred, and evil. We can land on our back, but then that is exactly where we need to be. It is the closest way to get us to our knees, where we surrender to all we are and all will be and will be, and ask for strength to face our fears head on. So go out and live fearlessly. You are not alone, Grandma Ruth. That was the end of her book. But
Fantastic.
they're just so,
Fantastic.
it's just like no nonsense.
Mhm.
But they're just, each of these letters, Karen, they're just, we're always in awe. We feel like we're messengers, but we're passengers. We're learning right
Mhm.
alongside, and we're just all, as you know, it's just, we're just the vehicle to make it come forward, or
Mhm.
you have to bring it up to be able to be shared. And and it's really touched like so many people. We're amazed with some of the young people, and I think
Mhm.
there's such hope for our young people. And
Mhm.
they're more awake, and there's not, they grew up with the internet with all the pluses and minuses, but they grew up connecting with so many people that the differences are like, oh, there's no um there's no stigma, there's no, it's much more acceptable. And
Mhm.
it's part of that. But I think they're also seekers. I think they're really seeking, you know and um and looking at all the things that are unfolding in our world, and all that's unfolding with our earth. One of the letters that's included here is a woman who we did not know, who came center stage, like I was sharing with you, who we had to figure out and work backwards who she was.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she channeled a letter on our earth. No, she channeled a letter on our bodies, and how
Mhm.
our bodies and how important they are, and also spoke to how when we pass as single, doubles, and in groups. And there's a very much of a purpose to that. Not that we understand it, but it's very purposeful how we pass. And then the other gal that came through, who actually opened the portal for this woman who channeled the letter about the earth, the bodies, was a young girl who also died in the Nepal earthquake. She was
Mhm.
20 something, and she spoke about our earth and
Mhm.
gave voice to the earth, and how we are so connected. What we do to ourselves, others we do to ourselves, what we do to the earth we do to ourselves. That we're a mirror image because we're all one. We're all collectively, created from the same light and source. So anyway, they're just beautiful but very relatable stories, and it's been interesting the different ages of people that we've heard from, that it resonates with them. Different letters, but how it's affected them, and
Wonderful.
So
Wonderful. So where do we pick up from?
I ascended.
Yeah, you did.
Well, Karen, that is beautiful. She was just talking about her intergalactic travel, and it's interesting to, again, we're so connected, not just across the earth and with animals. I mean, we have a dog that's channeled the letter, and I spoke about Sydney, who spoke about Mother Earth and our connection with Mother Earth, but how we are connected across the realms and in so many different ways beyond our understanding and imagination. And just to know that, and if nothing else, it rests in the awareness that we are not alone, that we're always held in love and care, even if we don't feel it, just to allow that, just that even thought to be possible. And again, when we allow those things, we start to see them. You go to the grocery store and you feel more connected to the person standing behind you, in front of you in line. And just and that opens up the connection with one another, and we're all experiencing different things and sharing. We're all, we'll continue again, we'll move, from body to body again, we'll be back again. So to really go into this with wonder and with joy and with realness, but to experience the duality of it. We don't know sorrow if we don't know joy. We don't know joy if we don't know sorrow. You had spoken earlier about your mother and being in such deep grief, and it reminded me again of this young woman, Sydney, who channeled the letter about Mother Earth, and she came and channeled again. Beth and I, once we connect with the spirit, it's like they have our number and we have theirs, and so they can connect again. And she had been standing in my kitchen for 2 days and saying, just to get a message to her mother. And then a beautiful letter came through to her mother, and was speaking about grief and going through the deepest layers of that grief, and in that center is that connection. It's almost like an earth, it's almost like a hurricane, everything around, it's in the eye of the hurricane where's that peace, that stillness, that quiet. And it's in that place that they can reconnect and know one another in a different way, because they're still connected, and to allow it just is to be a different way, but they can feel the same. It's that love that transcends all realms. The feeling is still there. It's just a different type of connection.
Now, would you say to someone who's lost a loved one to speak out loud to the person they've lost, trusting that they're being heard, and allow perhaps what I know, I hate the word coincidences, because I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything is for a purpose. But then allowing in those synchronicities, maybe that's a better word, realizing that they actually are communicating with that person they love. So do you recommend people reach out to their loved ones who've passed on, or not? What's your take?
Yes, and we just done a reading, and that was one of the messages that had come through. To either write to someone, or to speak out loud to them. I speak out loud all the time. Even when I'm trying to work out a problem, it gets it out of inside. It gets it out of our head, gets it out of our body, it lets the feelings flow. I was just speaking with a woman who was worried about her dog, because her dog was sick, and I received all these messages for the dog, and I told her all the messages, and I said, you need to read this to him. He can hear you. Even if he cannot understand English, he knows what you're saying. He can hear, and his higher self can hear you. And the dog had been coughing a great amount because he has pneumonia, and they were really worried. And while we are connecting, she said her dog fell asleep. The coughing stopped, and the dog became very calm. And I said, sing to him, talk to him, And we can do this with our loved ones who have passed. And then ask questions and ask to see these messages, and ask for them to be big and bold. So we don't doubt. I do that every day in the morning. I say, send me a sign, send me a message that I'm surrounded, that I'm not alone, that you can hear me, or to a specific soul. I will ask that. And then I will sometimes give them an idea of, like, let me see this, so I know you're around me, and then I'll believe it. Or just speaking their names out loud. I say, whenever we're thinking about a soul that has passed, they're there with us. So, write them, talk to them, do all of that. I think that's important. Reach out. Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about, we're coming near the end of the show. If I wanted to come to you and have to receive a letter, what would be the process? How can our viewers connect with you? What's the best way to go about it? And what can they expect from the session or the meeting?
You want to talk?
Go ahead. Okay, so we have so they can go on our website and read about it too, which is www.thesacredletters.com. So we don't need to have the person present with us. We just need the first name and what the relationship is to the individual. And then Beth and I will connect for like 60 to 75 minutes and kind of back and forth, exchanging all that was coming through to us. And then that brings that individual, that loved one, into our awareness. And then not long after that, we actually receive a letter. Sometimes instantaneously, and sometimes it's like the next day, but they're on my stage. I can see them going to be waiting to go center stage. And then what we do is we write up the information that we received. We include word for word what the letter was that came through. And then we also include some reflection. So sometimes what comes through, because it's, again, coming through Beth and myself, it is, we can do some of the reflections are like an interpretation. This is this image means this for us. So we're giving you that. I see motorcycles, that kind of means to me a free spirited, open-minded. For Beth, I think if she sees a bouquet of roses, it means love. So we use sort of the languages that we get, but we also are using the conversations that we have. Each spirit is different. Some are very talkative, and others are, giving us more images. They give us different things, but we pull that all together, and then we provide that individual requesting the personal sacred letter reading with this beautiful written keepsake that's several pages, and they can read it over time. And we've heard from, we just received a letter from a woman we sent a reading to, and she said it was for her, connected with her husband. And she said it just brought her so much peace. First of all, the images that we were given affirmed, yes, this is my husband. This is things that we didn't even know. And then we've heard from her twice now. And with each reading, she's receiving more layers of the messages in his letter. So it's a beautiful keepsake to go through, and to, in time, to let it kind of unfold, to almost like a flower, and open up more and more insights and understandings of things that they're sharing, while at the same time saying, I'm still here. I'm still aware of what's going on. Yes, I've left my physical body, but I am closer to you than the air that you breathe.
Wonderful.
And so they can, when they go onto our website, there's just a contact form. Well, there's the across the top, they'll see the readings tab. They can just click on that. That will bring them to a form where they can input their name and information, and then we'll automatically receive it, and we'll respond to them through email.
So you don't need to Skype with them or be on the phone with them. And do they need to send you a picture?
No,
Okay.
we receive the pictures. In fact, we like it when we receive it, and then afterward, if they would like to, we love it because we get that confirmation. But no, we don't need a picture. And people can connect with us on Facebook as well. We're both on Facebook, so if that's an easy way to reach us too, that's fine too.
And all the links will be in the description box below this video too, all the ones that I have anyway. And if there's any you think of, feel free to send them. That would be
Okay.
great.
And we're also running a Valentine's Day special, and
Oh,
it's going to be
wonderful.
for the whole month of February. And if you do purchase our book, and you just send us a picture or the receipt in the contact us form on our website or through our email, and we will enter you in a raffle to win a free reading. So
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. Wow, this has just been so great for me to meet both of you and to talk more about this. And it also gives me a chance to validate my own experiences. I think we validate each other's experiences. And then when we believe in each other, we're actually even able to do more. So
I
it's
agree.
fantastic. So is there anything else you would like to share?
I would just encourage everyone to keep an open mind, and no matter whether it's in not necessarily reading our book, but just going through their days, to open up. When we open up and we start our day off that way, that's when everything unfolds beautifully. And that's when we stay connected. It's how we're all going to wake up. It's remembering. We have to remember to stay, to ask those questions, to get curious and open our minds.
And any final words to people that are still a bit afraid of dying? I don't know how to say it more delicately. It's just that's how it is. Some people are really afraid. Just what's your message again for them?
Yes. Fear it feels real. I've had many fears, so I understand it. Really what we're afraid of is the unknown. My friend's mother was passing, and she wrote a beautiful letter before she passed and said, "I am afraid of the unknown, but I have faith." So when we go to that place in our head, I would just keep challenging that and asking for faith, and that you will be taken care of. And read and open up your mind, because that's helped me deal with my fear. I had a huge fear of death before I went through all this. And those fears are conditioning, and they're ingrained in us. So when we open our minds, then we can my little puppy just came over.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
And hug and love people who are in this physical world, because that helps with the fears. But
sure does.
Just keep challenging those fears and learning and growing. And that's the way it worked for me. Some people, it happens in an instant and they have an experience, and others it just takes time chipping away from it. But don't stop believing. to quote Journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to laugh. This is back when I was still afraid of dying, and I'd left religion, and I was feeling quite lost. And I don't know, sometimes I don't know who I'm communicating with. It doesn't matter. It's just lovely, whatever it is. And my higher guide said to me, "Karen, if you knew how many times you've died, you'd laugh at yourself for being afraid. Trust me, you've died so many times. This is a piece of cake." And I went, I guess the strangeness of the message just kind of took me back. And I went, that's right, I've done this before, right? I just knew it.
Yeah, we forget. We have a letter that's going to be in our second book that says we should be celebrating death, because we're going home and it's going to be amazing.
Amazing. Absolutely. And Berit, did you have any last words for us?
I would just say, just again, be in the love. I mean, just to be your, and just be yourself. I think if I have twins, I think I said, and I love the Oscar Wilde, be yourself, everyone else is taken. So we can just be ourselves and just know that we're so perfectly who we are, and then allow things to unfold, but allow with love to go towards love. And it doesn't mean you don't set boundaries, but to do things out of love and in our words, and be thoughtful about our words and our actions and our thoughts, because they are powerful. They're all three are so powerful.
I would agree with you. Wow, what an experience.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show, and I'd love to have you back, so please keep me in mind in the future. And anytime I can help, get the message out, I'm all about that.
Thank
And
you.
I'm just so grateful that you agreed to be on the show. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for joining us for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to Karen's YouTube channel, click the like button, and share this show with your friends. Check out Karen's website at KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. All the links are available in the description box below. Until the next time, keep up the good work.
Surrendering to endlessness puts all my inner strife to rest. For time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less. And the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul, I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play. It's okay. It's okay.